ESPN Radio.
Isn't this a sports show?
I've been a Chiefs fan now, and I've for my entire short life, and I haven't seen any quarterbacks that are out here ready to go rock a jeans commercial. I want Patrick Mahomes to have the ability to go absolutely crush a commercial selling denim.
Almost entirely.
What are they going to do with his voice? It's Pat Mahomes with lead jeans here.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Well, now we talk to a man who can almost certainly say Pro Football Focus 3 times fast. Kit Swanson, actually, can you prove it?
Pro Football Focus, I can't do it. Nope.
Take the show with you by listening on the Sports Radio 810 mobile app at 810WHB.com or by searching for Almost Entirely Sports wherever you get your podcasts.
Here's the video, Kent. Let's just go ahead and hang out.
You're
here.
gonna make me watch this?
Yeah, 100%. It's amazing. You're gonna get some of the precursor here. She gets really mad, and then she takes her jacket off that's tied around her waist, and then drops trowel, leans up against it. You gotta watch, Kent. You gotta watch. Oh. She pooped on the floor, and then he picked it up and threw it at him.
This is Almost Entirely Sports on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Oh, man. Where to start? The entire Kansas and Missouri general area has either been blown away today or torrentially downpoured upon. It feels like a ridiculous spring day here on December 15th. Urban Meyer is going to get a kick out of this one way or another. The Kansas City Chiefs are 1 day away from meeting up in a game that will, in all likelihood, decide the AFC West. And we got Kent Swanson in 2 hours to talk about it. So welcome into tonight's Almost Entirely Sports. I'm Joshua Brisco, Rudy Salazar on the other side of the glass. We will be joined by Kent Swanson of the KC Sports Network at 9 tonight. And we'll have so many things that we can talk about leading all the way up there. Rudy, it looked like you sort of gesticulated towards the microphone to start there. What's going on? It was an early little Rudy shimmy there, and it makes me nervous.
This global warming thing ain't so bad.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's great for me.
I was afraid my car might blow off the road, but
here's the thing.
That's probably nothing.
I don't like
so we should look into that.
I don't like high winds. I don't like feeling like I'm going to blow away, but you know what I do like? I like a nice warm temperature. Giving me some 60-degree weather in December, I'll sign up for it. Will my grandkids have to pay? Joke's on them. I won't have grandkids.
Look, man, there have been days in December here that have been warmer than days when I was in Florida for Thanksgiving. And that seems... Oh, and also the middle of the state is on fire right now. Ongoing wildfires west of Topeka in north central Kansas. It's probably nothing.
It's fire. It's good for the ground.
It's a controlled burn.
It's like that's how you burn your grass, the nutrients, the ashes, fertilize it or something, and the new grass comes in a little bit better. I know stuff.
What? I mean, it's
I used to do controlled fires with my old man back in the day.
Yeah,
I walk around with a little, watching stuff, lighting stuff on fire, watching it burn. Mm-hmm. Did my dad frequently go do it a little too much and it get out of hand? Sure. Did we miss Easter one time because we were too busy trying to make sure no forest burned down? Absolutely. It happens.
I think the phrase wildfire does imply
it's big.
Not a controlled burn, I think.
It probably started as a controlled burn would be my guess. And escalated, because when I say we had,
why would it have started as a controlled burn? I have no reason to believe that.
I mean, most of these wildfires start as like a controlled burn of some sort, especially in the Midwest.
I don't have that information. I'm not willing to put that information on the radio.
I'm not saying that is the case. Just frequently, it is the case. Like in our exam, this did actually happen to my family back in the day. And you start off when you light it, it's we're talking super small fire, right? It's not even a foot tall. and then it just gets into some grass that's drier than you think, right? Or there's just more there. And I'm telling you, man, it can get out of hand real fast. Now, for us, it never really got close to, like, a wildfire's almost started. But, like, you'd be surprised how fast a controlled burn can go into.
Oh, I don't think I
everything
would
is on
be.
fire.
Yeah, I don't think I would be that surprised.
It happens. And also, people, for whatever, people think they can control fires.
Yeah, fire doesn't bleep around, really, generally speaking.
Controlled fire is a, would that be an oxymoron? Is that the term?
A little bit, yeah.
Because you can't really control a fire.
So anyway, speaking of things that should be fired, do you know where the Josh Reads the Internet imaging is, Rudy? I think that we'll have a lot of time to talk about Chiefs Chargers today, and rightfully so. But I knew whenever I saw this afternoon that we were going to have to begin here. This is a story in the Tampa Bay Times, tampabay.com, by Rick Stroud. And I just think that the best way for me to give you the important bits of information here is by reading it to you.
And now, Josh reads the Internet.
Josh Lambo was off to a slow start. The Jaguars All-Pro missed a field goal attempt in each of the first 2 preseason games. But the 4th most accurate place kicker in NFL history wasn't worried as he stretched with teammates at practice during the week before the final exhibition game against the Cowboys in August. Then Lambo was approached by head coach Urban Meyer, who doesn't call Jaguar specialists by their names.
They're not people.
It was kicker, punter, long snapper, Lambo said. Or S-bag, dip bleep, whatever the hell it was. The names didn't bother Lambo, but what the former Florida Gators coach did next, Lambo said, were the actions of a mean-spirited bully. Quote, "I'm in a lunge position, left leg forward, right leg back," Lambo said. Urban Meyer, while I'm in that stretch position, comes up to me and says, "Hey, dip bleep, make your bleeping kicks," and kicks me in the leg.
Pretty good advice.
Lambo spoke for the first time publicly about what he said happened to him in an interview with the Tampa Bay Times. Quote, "It certainly wasn't as hard as he could have done it, but it certainly wasn't a love tap," Lambo said. Truthfully, I'd register it as a 5 out of 10.
See, he held back.
Which, in the workplace, I don't care if it's football or not, the boss can't strike an employee.
Debatable.
Somebody never played basketball at Wichita State.
It's Florida. There are no rules in Florida.
And for a second, I couldn't believe it actually happened. "Pardon my vulgarity," I said. "Don't you ever bleeping kick me again." And his response was, "I'm the head ball coach. I'll kick you whenever the bleep I want."
Where are the lies in that statement?
Well, just ask Urban Meyer. I'll skip down a little bit. Quote, "Josh's characterization of me in this incident is completely inaccurate, and there are eyewitnesses to refute his account," Meyer said. General manager Trent Baalke and I met with him on multiple occasions to encourage his performance, and this was never brought up. I was fully supportive of Josh during his time with the team and wish him nothing but the best.
Do you think Urban Meyer gave him a kick out the door?
The next morning, Lambo said he was in a nutritional aisle at the team's training facility making a smoothie. Meyer approached him. Quote, "He sees me and I'm by myself and he kind of cornered me and comes up to me and says," quick timeout editorial note, I am going to read this verbatim, this next quote, but I am going to put my own sort of understanding of this phrase into the context, in the performance that I think it deserves.
Yeah.
So once again here, quote, "He sees me and I'm by myself and he kind of cornered me and comes up to me and says, 'Are you going to put a smile on that face?' Lambo said. I said, 'I'll smile if you stop kicking me.' The conversation was out of earshot of other players or staff, Lambo said.
Big Heath Ledger fan. Good taste in movies.
So there's a long quote here where Lambo talks about some of these things. and then quotes Urban Meyer as saying, his response was, quote, "Okay, you don't like me doing this? Okay, if you don't like me doing that, fine. But if you ever speak to me like that again, you'll be out of here. You're the first player I've ever let speak to me that way in my career, and if you do it again, you're gone." Lambeau said he was stunned. I said, quote, "I'm genuinely not trying to be sarcastic here, Urban, but what did I say that offended you?" Lambeau remembered asking Meyer. He said, quote, "When you responded to me out there on the practice field in front of everybody, if you have an issue and don't like me kicking you, well, then you keep that to yourself and you wait until after practice, and after meetings, you come find me in the office and tell me privately."
Learned that in kindergarten. Teacher told me if I didn't like her kicking me, talk to her after class, but keep it to myself. This is normal behavior.
I keep thinking I'm going to bail on this story at some point, but then every paragraph that goes on is either crazier or at least important to the story. So Lambeau said he reported the incident to his agent, who contacted the Jaguars' legal counsel the day after that happened. Both Irvin and the Jags confirmed the legal counsel was contacted and offered Lambeau a chance to meet with them, but Lambeau said he has, quote, "no recollection of being able to speak with the Jags' legal team." So there's some more stuff in there, and Lambeau was released after he missed his first 3 field goal attempts to start the season.
Fun fact about Josh Lambeau, he was 2004 was the U.S. men's national team under-20 starting goalkeeper.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he was like
Wow.
a really, really good soccer player growing up. And then he transitioned to football.
Everything,
I think it was like 04, somewhere around that time.
Everything after that was essentially more things about the other stuff that has happened around Urban Meyer and the Jags, so that has been me reading the internet. Okay, no longer reading the internet, so I can now say, what the bleep? What? Sorry? Hello? Pardon? Urban? What? Look, I think that on a variety of levels over the last, I don't know, I don't want to equate a bunch of criminal behavior to a bunch of just sort of bad leadership behavior. Mm-hmm. But I would say that as a society, we've gotten a little bit better at not just assuming that the people with the most power are decent people. And again, in some cases, we're talking about like people who are now in prison for the rest of their lives because of the horrible things that they have done. And you know, it's good. I'm not going to equate all these things. That would be unreasonable. But football seems like one of those remaining places where just the name you've heard of, the dude who's been in power before, and in this case, the guy who's been in charge of collegiate athletes throughout his entire career until now, when he's gone professional and it has not gone well, you find out that just being in charge of something like massive college football programs doesn't necessarily mean that you're qualified to, I don't know, communicate with human beings. The John Gruden thing was one thing, because it was like this total unmasking of all of this racist, misogynistic, homophobic stuff in his emails, right? We all know all of this about pretty much everything going on in Washington, which you want to play a petty one-up game. There was a whole story about Daniel Snyder and I think it was the settlement with Bruce Allen that needed to include a congratulatory text message that Bruce Allen never sent to Dan Snyder. That whole thing. Yeah, I'm not going to do another read the internet in the first segment. We're not going to get the Chiefs charges if I go down that rabbit hole also. But you can look at Washington and it's like, well, they need a clean house. You can look at the Los Angeles Clippers and find yourself 1,000 places in between throughout all of sports. And again, these are not all equal crimes, because some of them are crimes, and I don't think Josh Lambeau wants to try Urban Meyer for assault in this case. But unsurprisingly, from everything we already knew about Urban Meyer when the Jags hired him and then brought in the strength and conditioning coach with overtly racist things in his recent past. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I think maybe officially. And then all the stuff that happened in Ohio State that he allegedly knew about. His assistant coach and...
But almost definitely.
But like...
Kind of, I think maybe admitted it.
I think maybe admitted it. But I think that
But allegedly.
we are still at a point of like... These stories, and this particular incident, again, in the grand scheme of things...
It's small.
Is relatively small. I made the joke about Greg Marshall a second ago, right? Mm-hmm. Him punching a player in the back of the head after ejecting him from practice or whatever the mechanic was that led to that happening.
A player who is more or less a kid.
Yes. That's all I guess worse, right? In this sliding scale. But what is it in I mean, I guess it's the very like, I don't know, faux militaristic kind of thing that gets very fetishized for a leader of men in a sports program, specifically a football team.
Football gets compared to...
it gets compared to war all the time. They wear camo bleep in college.
There's a lot of like interacting there, yes.
I have not heard anyone who was in the military who also played football say that those are the same thing, or that they're very equal, or that maybe football is harder.
I believe Villanueva, who did do both, like specifically come out and said they're not the same.
That would make sense to me, just sort of given the stakes at hand.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that like the camo uniforms and stuff were always a little bit odd because it sort of feels like cosplaying, and if it
LARPing.
It feels a little bit like LARPing. It feels a little bit like cosplaying. It feels a little bit like like KC Wolf in fatigues. If you are in the military and you're like, I'm glad that KC Wolf wore camo. It makes me feel more like accepted or whatever. Great, awesome. That's totally. I hope that most people feel that way. It's just always struck me as a little bit odd. But I think that's largely probably pretty harmless. But then you get to the point where you have Urban Meyer, who theoretically and allegedly believed somewhere in him as a football coach that the best way to get his kicker to kick better was to kick his kicker. Allegedly.
Kicking kickers to get them kicking.
And on some level, that's the thing to me that is most upsetting is how stupid it is. And maybe it's just all a power dynamic thing and nobody has told Urban Meyer no at any point in the last 15 years. I don't know. I mean, he had hell of a roster at Florida that you could look back at and do a little where are they now kind of thing.
Tim Tebow, #1 Jesus fan.
Tim Tebow was the rug that everybody else was able to kind of slither under, I think.
I think he was the only. That was it. Just a bunch of Tim Tebow.
It was just Tim Tebow. It was just 90 Tim Tebows. Every once in a while, I try to remember who is that one receiver that I think Scott Pioli said they'd take. Lance Long? Was it Lance Long? I'd take 50. That might have been a Todd Haley quote, actually.
Yeah, I would take 53 Lance Longs. I'm pretty sure it was Todd Haley.
I'd like to can we get Lance Long on the show? I don't know what he's doing. I feel like he could come on and talk about
probably living a pretty good life,
cloning himself for the sake of Todd Haley and just sort of football. I'd like to talk to Lance Long.
If he had 53 Lance Longs in Pittsburgh, you wouldn't have had Ben Roethlisberger trying to hurt him all the time. Remember the story like
Todd Haley, you mean?
Fell downstairs like twice.
Yeah,
in the
you're
span
right.
Of like 2 months.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that Ben Roethlisberger had a hit out on him.
I'm not going to say Ben Roethlisberger pushed him, but I might say that Ben Roethlisberger left a banana peel at the top of the stairwell.
He definitely didn't push him, but like one of his 30 walking boots just happened to be laying around.
I've thought about this a lot, and
Same.
There's not that part.
No, the Urban Meyer part.
I've thought about.
I mean the other part as well, but the Urban Meyer part.
The other thing though that I think I mentioned this. I don't even remember. I think it was Josh Gordon talking post game after the Raiders game, where this came up again. And it came up in the conversation that I had a month or so ago with Jamal Charles. That's still available on the podcast page. If you just search for Almost Entirely Sports Jamal Charles, I'm sure you'll find it. Where those guys talked about how being in Kansas City and being with Andy Reid, and for Charles, it was specifically Eric Bieniemy. I don't remember who Josh Gordon named specifically on this on Sunday night. But there was this like shock that they had getting to Kansas City, or having Andy Reid get to Kansas City in Jamal Charles's case, and then being told for them to be themselves and to like have their personality and everything. Can you imagine for a second Harrison Butker missing 3 kicks and then Andy Reid kicking him mid-stretch? Just try to envision Andy Reid kicking Harrison Butker whenever he was missing some extra points. If I took Urban Meyer's name off of that and asked you to tell me what you learned about that coach from this one incident, allegedly, you would say that guy obviously shouldn't be coaching Pee-wee football. Well. And this guy has been the absolute golden god standard of college football, moved to the booth, and now is at the helm of a sinking ship in Jacksonville in the preseason, kicking his kicker. He just got there. And these are the people who are in charge of so many of these teams. It's guys who are wired that way. And I do not think, by the way, this is one of those things where I think Urban Meyer is the outlier. I'm not sure off the top of my head. And I think John Gruden is the outlier. I don't know by how much. I'm not saying they're the only ones that have this. But why is it so hard to be a decent person who has power? Why is that so difficult? Why is it so difficult to, like, respect your roster as you hope that they'll respect you back again? Andy Reid gets hit with players coach as a detrimental thing whenever they haven't been winning. This team's undisciplined. What? So I'm going to start asking, callers on the postgame show about this, or other pundits or whatever. This team's not disciplined enough. I would like you to tell me what Andy Reid should do to be more disciplinarian with this team. Which, by the way, the idea that the Chiefs aren't disciplined as a team, I think, leads you to a fundamental misunderstanding, or you admitting a fundamental misunderstanding, not just of Andy Reid, but also of Eric Bieniemy's existence. But do you want your coaches to be kicking your players? Because I don't. Can you imagine if your boss kicked you because you weren't performing very well? Come on. What are we doing? This is a guy who's in a many times over multimillionaire, in charge of one of 32 goldmine NFL franchises. And theoretically, he's been treating his collegiate players like this for years, to great success. But also, college football players don't have a union. And also, they're significantly younger, and you're not very likely, I would think, to get a kicker at Florida or Ohio State to come out and say, hey, massive college football fan base, your head coach is somewhere between a dope and a bully, allegedly. It's just, the whole story is mind-boggling to me in ways that it probably shouldn't be at this point. I should probably stop being surprised by absolute power corrupting absolutely or whatever. But this was in the preseason of his first year. Urban Meyer clearly, I think, and I think we have examples of this all across this last year of him in Jacksonville, less than a year. I think he clearly took who he was as a college coach and just carbon copied it to take to Jacksonville with no thought of, do I need to adjust my approach at all here? Because you saw that in him hiring the strength and conditioning coach, who absolutely did not deserve to have one of those very rare jobs in the NFL based off of his recent words and actions. Then you get him saying, just this week, if I find the leaker in my offices, they'll be fired within seconds. This sort of stuff is just different in the NFL, and I know that. Everybody, the reporters in Jacksonville, there was a question, one of his press conferences this week, about some defensive player, And Urban Meyer said something along the lines of like, yeah, and I think he's been playing more, and we're trying to get him out there more. He played 0 snaps in the game prior. 0. Not that many. 0. And he didn't even say, I'll have to look at the tape on that. I'm not sure of the snap count right now, whatever. And I'm not even talking about him not flying back on the team plane and then having the whole thing happen at Urban Meyer's Steakhouse or whatever. I'm missing things. I thought of something that has happened around this team and then already forgot it because I got distracted by the video of him with somebody at the steakhouse. It's the team meetings. Oh, it was the running back rotation. Someone asked about the running back rotation with James Robinson and managing injuries and everything. And he basically just threw the OC right under the bus of like, yeah, I would tend to agree with you, reporter, throwing our team under the bus here. He seems like he has lost all control as a person who has never had that happen to him before. It's just wild to me. It is a bunker story that I imagine you would probably see a lot more in college as collegiate players get more power.
And you know what? I think it's going to be okay. Can I read you a quote?
Sure.
It's from one of my favorite books. Nobody wants hardship or adversity, but everybody gets it. It's inevitable. No one escapes pain, fear, or difficulty. A successful life involves some amount of necessary pain. When it happens, don't run from it. Learn from it.
Now, which of your beloved many of your book collections is that from?
Called Above the Line, Lessons in Leadership and Life from a Championship Season, written by Wayne Coffey and Urban Meyer. It's a great quote.
I mean, Urban also was on Fox a few years ago with like the list of all of the things that are going wrong in a flailing franchise without leadership, and he listed off a bunch of things that seem to be happening in Jacksonville. I just...
Your culture message must be exceptionally clear. No confusion, no uncertainty, no excuses. Explain to your team that this is what we believe and how we behave in all circumstances. It is who we are.
In fairness, I think he's nailed that. Who we are is that our kicker, punter, and long snapper, I also call bleep bag and dip bleep. And whenever I kick you, I say, I'm the head ball coach. I'll kick you whenever the bleep I want. Okay. That's who we are.
Counter argument. I know the team's not doing good, but results, they are important. Yes.
Sure.
We're all in this to produce results. I mean, not me, obviously, but the players are.
Sure.
But culture is what sustains the behavior that gets you those results. Build the culture. The results will come.
Dip bleep. Bleep bag.
If you build it, it will come. That was from Urban Meyer.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott, Urban Meyer.
He also said he's never been in a football game with the team that played the hardest didn't win. I don't believe that for a second because, man,
ridiculous.
You get to, like, especially, like, the high school and collegiate level where the talent gap can be so wide.
Yeah.
Like, trust me, man, I played really hard against plenty of teams where I spent half the game laying on my back in pain because I just got lit up.
You were trying really hard. You just weren't 6'5", 300 pounds. I think the thing that I want people to take from this is to just assume a little bit less of people who have just been in charge for so long that you assume there's a reason for it. Because this isn't even about, like, doling out consequences or whatever. But whenever you look at, like, John Gruden's emails, if you take his name off of them, it's simply not a person you want in charge of McDonald's, much less the Las Vegas Raiders. Even on, like, stuff just like the him poo-pooing the NFL, pretending to care more about concussions. Netflix's Home Team coming to Netflix, streaming everywhere soon. That alone would make me go like, do I want this dude, coaching me in how to use my head, helmet, and brain? Do you want a football coach whose best way of helping a kicker and be better at kicking is to kick the kicker? You put the names on it and you go, oh, that's Urban Meyer, Sean Gruden. Those guys are winners. Man, somebody hired one of those guys a long time ago. They did their authoritarian bleep without ever particularly seeming to evolve much as human beings. And until today, Urban Meyer was, I think, coming out of Jacksonville as almost sympathetic in his press conferences because it was so pathetic. Of just like, it feels like every answer is like, I don't know. I don't effing know, man. I don't know. What do you want me to do? I got Trevor Lawrence. I came here, I got Trevor Lawrence and a big bag of money. I've made several bad decisions in a row, and our team is losing for the first time in my professional life. I don't know. I don't have your answers.
I have some advice for him.
Sure.
First, you win that battle in your mind. Then, you win that battle in practice. And then, and only then, will you win that battle in the game, or in this case, the press conference. Urban Meyer.
Can you I know you brought your copy of that book with you, Rudy, because you have it with you every day. It's in your backpack.
Yes.
It is weather beaten. Because
I actually have the phrase above the line tattooed on my over my heart.
It's actually, I thought it was right above your waistline because it's also kind of clever,
it's in a couple of spots.
You have it multiple times.
Yeah, it's a great
That's
line.
a great quote.
Stay above the line.
I'm thinking about getting it above my belly button and below my belly button, just sort of like Thug Life style over the belly button and then above the line, above the waistline, But if it just go ahead and I know you've got, as you've been reciting it from memory this whole time, I know you have most of the book memorized, but just for me, just kind of think through or flip through the pages if you need to, if you haven't reread it all within the last couple of days. I know you try to reread it every week, but just try to find if there's any advice about physically impacting your employees with your foot.
You don't get the culture you want. You get the culture you build.
Is that in there?
Yeah, word for word.
Because that's bleeping poetic and maybe prophetic and also pathetic. I was so blown away by this story today that I forgot to start this show by talking about the fact that Willie Gay has COVID and won't play on Thursday night. We'll talk about that whenever we come back.
Want more Almost Entirely Sports? Watch the show live on the Sports.
Corner of College and Quivira.
This is Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco.
Seahawks Ravens, not happening. Ravens Eagles. Love this game, love this matchup. Could be an interesting quarterback situation, and Earl Thomas gets to play in the city of brotherly love.
Anywho, I love Drew Brees.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I need some input. I can get a used hardcover version of Urban Meyer's excellent leadership book, Above the Line. I can get a copy of it for like $5 or $6 used on Amazon. It's a little more expensive. I'm having a harder time finding a good copy of it on eBay. I'd like to get a signed copy of it for $91. And if I could just have it, teleport into my hand right now, I might spend the $5 on it. I'm not going to buy the Kindle version, though, because I need it for the bit, I want to be able to open a random page of this book and just read any one of the numerous incredible life-changing tidbits of wisdom.
I'm here today because of that book.
I'm really tempted to dig in a little deeper to try to figure out how exactly this book has brought you to where you are today. But I mean, really just you as a man, as a whole, like as a human being that is seeing the truth above the line.
When you learn to be above the line, you stay above the line. Yeah, and that's just, you stop. Honestly, you're so far above the line, you don't even really see the line anymore because you're just up there. You're just up in the clouds.
And I just, you want to learn lessons in leadership and life from a championship season.
And there were so many championship seasons, so many lessons.
Shad Khan has to have kept the receipt for this hire, right?
I don't know if he's just my best, and this is in all seriousness, it's not a joke. At this point, he's just assuming that Urban Meyer's eventually just gonna quit and he's not gonna have to pay a buyout. Just like it's getting so bad, he's like, you know what? Maybe if I just wait, he's gonna step away, and then I just won't have to pay him.
There was a tweet here that I do want to talk about.
He's had
the
a
Chiefs
couple
defense,
heart conditions. And I mean, I use that in air quotes because I don't know if he really had a heart problem. Maybe he did. I don't know. And so they popped up twice. Third time's the charm. I don't know.
Michelle Steele tweeted this out earlier. I thought it was interesting, saying about the story. Jaguars acknowledged team attorneys knew about the reported incident, which presumably would mean team president and/or GM also would have known. They have sided with Meyer. If the team cites this win, or if they decide to let him go, it will be because it went public, which is a good point there. Of again the story I mentioned that there was the talk of the Jags attorneys knowing about it. I think it would be pretty bad form for your attorneys to not pass something like that along.
Ice Pyro says he may know a guy on the high seas who can get you that book.
Is that a pirating joke?
I don't know.
I don't either. At this point, I'm too afraid to ask.
I think we roundabout asked.
It's either a joke about pirating a book, and look, I mean,
maybe he can actually get you the book.
If I don't give Urban Meyer $5 directly after downloading that book in some other form, how will I sleep at night? Or Iced Pyro? He said yes. Well, it kind of takes the wind out of my sails. Pun intended! Because I was going to say, like, if I could get a copy of this book that was used by an actual sailor on the high seas with those weathered pages, that's how I feel like that book should be. I feel like Urban Meyer's book should be sold that way. Exactly.
That's where you see the real leadership.
Yeah, in the wrinkled, sea-salted pages.
He's a treasure. Gift that keeps giving.
To stick with the pirate theme, I don't know if he's treasure or if he's a bunch of booty. Anywho, I
have a lot of whips.
Anywho, I love kicking my players. What? We need to talk about the Chiefs thing here. We'll talk a lot more Chiefs with Kent Swanson of KC Sports Network here in 15 minutes, and we'll talk about it throughout the remainder of the show. But the news of the day today, and I honestly kind of lost. It feels like. Go ahead, Rudy.
I'm sorry. Ice Pyro says, I once saw a pirate selling this stuff. It was a yar sale. It's pretty good. You may talk about the Chiefs.
I don't know that I can now, though, you know? Like,
it had to be said.
I just am afraid this whole segment's going to be pirate puns. We have to take another break anyway. Like, is this just the real quick segment instead of it being the last one?
Probably. Regroup. Get back to the Chiefs.
I mean.
Potentially.
Yeah, I mean, we
get back above the line.
We can try. Just at this point, I'm worried that the entire show's been sunk like a pirate ship. I didn't have a better one. I was just stalling that whole time. Like, if I come up with one pirate-based joke, then maybe I'd see if we could go to break. See, that one's also not. It's not good. I don't have one though. Now I'm stuck here. More like the pirates who don't do anything. That's a joke that would have killed if Kent was here.
Did you know you can listen to Almost Entirely Sports anywhere, anytime? Well, you can. You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports.
In the first 26 minutes of this show, everything went wrong on the production side. Not Beards' fault. All the equipment around him. He was captaining a ship with just like beach ball size holes in the
The ship
hull.
was A, on fire, B, getting invaded by pirates, C, had the Kraken trying to bring it down around it, and D, it also just got hit by lightning. E, it was also on a mountain.
With Joshua Brisco.
F, it was running Windows XP.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I'm not wrong. There are F reasons that the first 26 minutes of this show is a hellscape.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, let's actually talk about the Chiefs' defense. That was the entire... That music bed
I was
not a
little
long
worried.
one, huh?
I did not. After I hit play, I then kind of looked. I was like, "Oh boy, this is
Yeah.
about 3 or 4 seconds long." And honestly, it kind of worked out.
It was fun,
Because you're
yeah.
like, and now we're gonna talk about the Chiefs, and then the music just kind of stopped.
I expected
like,
it to
okay.
come back in again, you
Yeah.
know, and it didn't. It was just that was the end of it.
That was it. I'm just happy there was an actual
Fade
fade
out and not
just a
just-
hard cut.
There's some non-royalty free beds in there that I'm sure I put in of like, you know, I know in the hotline, but and that's just the end of the bed. I tried to give some good edit points. That's been a long time since I don't, you know what? I just realized I don't even know how to put music in the new system.
It's pretty easy.
I'm sure it is, but
It's
I
actually
just
much easier because you don't
Also-
actually have to record it. You can
Yeah.
just drag a file.
I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I want to talk about the Chiefs defense a little bit here before we talk about it more with our dear friend Kent Swanson of KCSN coming up in about 10 minutes from now. So the news of the morning today was that L'Jarius Sneed was ruled out for this game, which makes sense. He was on his way back to Kansas City on Tuesday, according to Andy Reid, whenever we were out there for press conferences and everything. So on his way back, but hasn't practiced for a week. And in any circumstance, injury-wise, when a guy doesn't practice for a week, they usually don't play. So makes sense. Obviously, Sneed was away to be with his family following the murder of his brother. Like, just an incredibly heavy, difficult thing for a million reasons. But so not terribly surprised that he's ruled out. Also, because, I don't know, man, are you working out in that period of time? Are you going to be able to be totally up with what you're going to do defensively that upcoming day? I would think probably not. Anyway, doesn't matter. That part is not all that important as to why he's not playing. We know the crux of it. And now he won't be playing tomorrow night. The surprising thing on the injury report today was that Willie Gay Jr. was ruled out. And the first we saw of that was from the Chiefs tweeting it out. And in the injury report, under the injury section, was just reserve COVID. And this now puts the Chiefs in a heck of a position tomorrow night. They're going up against a very good Chargers offense, which will not have Rashawn Slater. We know that officially now. Their left tackle is out. And they may or may not have Austin Eckler. Was dealing with an ankle issue last week. Short turnaround, limited in practice, officially questionable for tomorrow night. But then the Chiefs' defense, we could do the power ranking of all of this, of like who would be the guys that you would want to take off that defense the least. And Snead, Gay, and Jones are all pretty darn high on that list. If Tyrann Mathieu is also out, that would be worse. If, I don't know, maybe you give Tarvarius Ward the number one pull there among corners, but I think you could probably put Snead one clip above him. Maybe Frank Clark is on that list, but I think you could make an argument at least that with Tyrann Mathieu as the other guy, again, maybe Juan Thornhill's on that list, I don't know. But these are 3 of the 5 most important players on this defense that will not be playing tomorrow night. We talked about this last night with Seth Kaiser. Willie Gay makes the field smaller for offenses. He has an uncommon and unmatched speed and athleticism at that position that nobody else in this group is going to be able to compensate for. Also, with Rashad Fenton playing about half the snaps last week, maybe he ramps up this week, and maybe that adjusts things a little bit here, but Dan Sorensen played something like 90% of the snaps last week, with Tyrann Mathieu playing in the slot more. Well, Willie Gay is out. Ben Niemann has been playing more and more already, kind of finding that role again, and he'll be playing even more with Gay being out tomorrow. And you're going to talk about a team that I'd have to think, given our conversation with Seth yesterday, and we'll talk about this with Kent, but I'd have to think that the plan, if you're the Chargers, is to start implementing some more of those passes to the running back in the flats, or even just running backs out of the backfield doing anything, specifically with the talent of Austin Eckler and a player of his style going up against a Chiefs defense that had no answers for that before Willie Gay Jr. returned. I am worried about the Chiefs defense in a way that I have not now in several weeks. Because barring a miraculous surprise of Chris Jones, who would have had to have had a negative test by now, because 24 hours from now the game is happening, and I would think we would probably have heard a little bit of optimism on that front if that was trending in that direction. So I would tend to think that Chris Jones will not be playing in this game, along with Snead and Gay. But for the defensive renaissance that this team has had, I do think it's legitimate, and I do think that it's more than just the personnel changes. It seems like Dan Sorensen's playing better football in a role more fitting to who he is. Same for Ben Niemann, and then having Willie Gay out there. Same for Mike Hughes, honestly, right?
AFC Defensive Player of the Week, Mike Hughes.
Thank you. Please use his full name. I think there are things schematically and things in Frank Clark getting healthy and things in everybody becoming more comfortable in the defense. Anthony Hitchens being in a better stretch right now than he was in earlier in the season. I think there are sustainable things happening right now that go beyond just having those guys on the field. But having to take, I think I said this last night, the worst neutral matchup agnostic thing you can have in football, Thursday Night Football on the road. Having that and pairing it now without your best defensive player, and then maybe your third and fourth, or fourth and fifth most important players after that, it puts you in a terribly detrimental spot in a game you absolutely have to have. And so I'm not a total downer on this. I'm not telling you that the game is over, but it was already stacked against the Chiefs. And again, no Rashawn Slater. Maybe Frank Clark has the game of his Chiefs career tomorrow night. I think that's in the realm of possibility. Maybe Melvin Ingram has 3 sacks. But I do think things are going to get more difficult here. We'll talk to Kent Swanson about that next.
You're listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810.
get to all of the fun, chiefy things that we're always able to get to with our dear, dear friend, Kent Swanson of the KC Sports Network, kcsn.substack.com for their Substack and all their written content there, kcsportsnetwork.com for links to everything, all of the podcasts, KC Laboratory, of course. Even T-shirts that I'm not supposed to talk about are available there. But Kent, I mean, you guys do great work, and I want to talk to you about everything currently going on with the Chiefs because it's kind of bonkers. But first, I want to issue an apology to you because of something that happened on last night's show. And I know that you saw some of these things on Twitter, and I would like to personally apologize to you for the fact that Craig said he's a better dad than you are.
Honestly, I was not prepared for the violence I experienced on social media yesterday. Can you just give me the elevator speech about how we got to the point where I'm an inferior father to Craig?
Yeah, man. Look, just to be clear, I've not picked a side. What I asked Craig, I can't even remember what it started with. It was something along the lines of what's the last piece of media you've consumed, or did you do X, Y, or Z or whatever? And his answer was that he has a 4-month-old baby. So that makes sense. More importantly now, who is the better dad of a baby? Specifically, even just the baby division. I have not said, who's going to be the better dad to have a catch with out back, Just dad of a baby. In retrospect, I wish I would have asked who's the better baby daddy, but that's not what I asked, and so here we are. And Craig said that he would take that crown himself. So, I mean, that's what he said. You guys can hash that out on the pod if you want. Do you want to fire back? Do you want to take the throne?
I'm going to let my work speak for itself here. I will say, that man, what that man is putting himself through right now, yeah, he's doing a really phenomenal job, and I don't want to badmouth the competition or say anything negative whatsoever about the work that Craig Stout's putting in, and we look forward to the challenge of our babies fighting it to the death in the near future.
In the near future is even worse.
Whoa, no, that makes it even worse.
Why are you dancing on Craig's logo at the 50? This seems ridiculous. This seems like a bad idea.
I think his logo is just an empty beer bottle.
Ooh, that's pretty good. Well, so I was going to say that I think it's just his bald silhouette of just his head, because he mentioned that you have, again, these are Craig's words, not mine here, but I will repeat them. I can't be punished by the FCC, I don't think, for repeating what he said. He said that you have to spend a lot of time to get your hair looking as good as it does all the time. Although I have noticed you in a lot of hats lately, which I wonder if that has anything to do with it. But he said you spend a lot of time on your hair, and that's time you can't be spending with your children, and specifically with the baby. And he is a perfectly calibrated dadding machine at this point, because there's no hair there at all. The beard's even gone.
Yeah, he claims that he accidentally shaved his beard, but I think it's more time it's just trying to streamline efficiencies for his face too. Yeah. So he can just continue to be a better father than I am. I see how it is.
And look, if I was in your shoes, man, if you were going to say, hey, even if I'm judging from afar, what's more important, Kent's newborn child or Kent's hair? I'm taking your hair 10 times out of 10. You know how easy it is to make a baby? Everybody does it. That hair is special.
Well, and I have a good support system here that allows me to thrive, to focus on what, the first things first. And you're right, quaffing that hair is crucial to this family's success. So I shout out to my wife for allowing that to happen, really.
Now, are you now getting to a wife fight situation? Because I am currently getting even more nervous about just everything currently happening. I'm scared right now.
No, I'm sure we'll be able to squash this beef sooner rather than later and keep the wives out of it. The wives would both look at us and tell us we're stupid if it got that far.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think if I don't even know if you would have to ask for any sort of prompt there. I think that you might just get you're stupid just for no particular reason.
Honestly, our wives are probably dads of the year too, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
They probably both look at us like we're moms and dads of the year. What did you guys do?
You guys are you're on the active roster, but nobody's expecting you to play. They're playing offense and defense, and you're a specialist. That's what it is.
Yeah, we're Ben Neiman, and they're asking us why we are doing what we're doing perpetually.
Oh man,
my wife. I'm just gonna say, my wife has held her hands up in frustration at me like Tyrann Mathieu more than once in the last week.
You're the Daniel Sorensen of that relationship, you know. And
yeah,
that's okay. Dan, look,
you find your role, and hey, look, you have. Dan Sorensen played like 100% of the snaps this week. I played 100% of the snaps during the bye week when we didn't have a game. So, sure. I did my role. I did my job.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm nervous now because whenever it was just you versus Craig, I was excited because I thought maybe you guys would just have like I tell you what, man. I mean, you want to pump up the KCSN YouTube or any of your various video streaming or whatever. Just put you guys in a cage. Like I'll come do a cameo as a part of the play-by-play. You can let me and Tucker do it. Let me, Tucker, and Matt do it. BJ would probably be. Maybe we let BJ referee it because he doesn't want either of you to die, right? Like.
Yeah, I mean, he might make a good impartial judge. That could be a decent role for him. I would love to see the ringside analysis from all of y'all. That would be like Matt would be very technical because he actually is very much into fighting. And then I don't know, both like you and Tucker are somehow comedic relief. I don't know.
Yeah, there might be too many cooks there. If I put together a sort of UFC round robin little tournament for KCSN, who's winning it? Who is the first one tapping out?
I'm not going to say we've had this conversation recently. We've had like close to this conversation before. Like Maddie would win out. Like Maddie would eviscerate us. People don't realize Maddie's a large human. Like he could play DNs in the Arena League right now, big enough. So like, Maddie would clean house. Craig is probably like a scary underdog, though.
Yeah, I would not want to fight Craig. I don't know why, but I'm afraid that he would get punched one time and then his eyes would turn red. I don't know why, because he's an incredibly nice person, but it scares me a little bit.
Because that would happen. Like, do not get on his bad side.
I would not.
Do not get on his bad side because, like, do not poke that bear. He is the genuinely kindest human, the most wonderful soul. I love him dearly. Yeah. I would hate to be on the wrong side of Craig Stout because I do think that there's an on button, but there's not an off button.
Yeah. But then so now we've got you can expand. I would say let's keep it to the Substack because if you start getting if Mike DeVito gets a swing, I don't want any part of that. So we're leaving them out because I think that we're talking about us, and you know what I mean by us. I mean us.
Yes.
And they know what I mean.
Us mortals.
Yeah. And so now you've not named BJ, or Tucker here. Yeah, go ahead.
Just so you know, like basically our conversation was like if we had to have a champion represent us, we picked Jeff Allen over DeVito. Just so you know.
Yeah, seems.
I think Jeff's the guy. But
yeah,
anyways,
right. I think you're right. Yeah. That's smart. Yeah.
Yeah, DeVito's obviously a close second. Because then the drop off, it's just like massive gap.
Yeah.
In all of us Substackers.
Yeah, but right. Yeah, and I think you guys have nailed that part. I think I have no notes on that front. But you have not assigned anything to BJ, Tucker, or yourself. And I'll let you. I don't want to speak for you.
I mean, I think it's a toss up there. And like Tucker claims to be like I feel like Tucker has a little bit more hubris about it than I do. Mm-hmm. Like Tucker talks a big game, but like that's like he's also like 5'3", and I mean I think length plays a factor here at some point because like I could keep him at arm's length very easily and still get my shots in.
Right.
And BJ, like I don't think I want to get on BJ's bad side either, though.
I don't either. I really don't. That's right. I think if I had to work through that list, I'd be least mortally terrified of you and Tucker, And everybody else, I think I'm afraid of what that other gear is, right? Like, I don't know if you or Tucker have that in you. You might. I just don't know. I don't know that it's there.
I see, but here's the.
I don't know if I
have
have it
right
you
now.
know?
Josh, I'm pretty you would take last in this group. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure
You
we
think
would
Tucker
all beat
would
you
beat
up.
me up? You think?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry, I do. He's got more of a football background, I believe, than you do.
That's a pretty big dig at the wonderful football factory of Maranatha Christian Academy, but whatever.
Hey, I've seen the team in green. I've seen their work.
Yeah. Did we win a game in my senior season? No, wasn't my fault.
I did my job.
I did my job every day. I don't know what to tell you.
Honestly, Josh, push comes to shove, Tucker throws a Snickers at you, it's over.
That's true, man. If I get that, most people don't know that about diabetes is that if you even get touched by chocolate, it's just game over. It's like a peanut allergy.
There's a fatal flaw, and so no offense, buddy, but I do think you're the low man on that totem pole in the battle royale. Now, there's probably some things if we were to match up that you would win. I don't know them off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's something.
I wonder how big of a curveball it would be if I told you that I have a punching bag in my basement. Thoughts? Does that change anything?
No, because
really?
I'm sure Renee's probably used it more than you have.
I bought her gloves, and she was like, "Yeah, if you get me the ones that have the flowers on it, I might use it more." And I don't think she's ever put them on.
See, I feel like you still also you might have punched a bag here or there, but you've got a length disadvantage to everybody not named Tucker.
Yeah, which I think is why that one hurts me. I feel like if I think I have a little length advantage on Tucker, and I think it would be we can be the undercard if you want. If I don't know how the numbers work out, yeah, we can be the undercard.
Oh, well, definitely the undercard. It's inarguable.
All right, you guys set this up, and then I'll take Tucker. If I get Rudy in on this, then there's a length problem on the AES side. For you guys, I'm gonna need Rudy to start getting some Jay Glazer MMA training.
We just need every media entity to kind of build a representation for a battle royale, and just duke it out. And
this came up on the Zone yesterday, because then a Twitch commenter mentioned it last night, and I've been reeling about this for a while. Is they were talking about doing a punt, pass, and kick competition, and who at the station would finish last, and my name got mentioned there. Beards would not put a name to the namer, but that's offensive to me. That might be, and maybe if you hit me early on in the ring, maybe I'm gonna tap out early. That's fine. But the idea that I couldn't throw a football farther than Corey Anderson makes me want to fight someone.
Is Beards involved in it? Does he get the punt, pass, and kick?
Yes. Do you think Beards can throw a football?
No. Beards. No. All Beards eat is all he eats is chicken tenders. He doesn't have the strength. I feel bad for you on that one.
Yeah, that one hurts me a little bit. KCSN's a violent group, and that's tough. I'm a lover, not a fighter. We've been over this. But I can throw a football. How far could you throw a football right now? If I gave it, put it in your hand right now and sent you outside.
Oh man, I still could
Pioneer
probably,
Legend.
Yeah, Pioneer Legend. You don't look up my stats. Don't look up my stats, Josh. I shouldn't have said that. I could probably still throw it no warm ups. I could probably throw it 45 yards, but I could be throwing it close to 60 by the end of the warm-up. I would guess.
Wow. Okay. I threw out yesterday to Rudy that I think, and this might be a 5 throws take your best one thing, but I think I could put down 40. I actually do, and that might be maybe I'm overestimating myself. But
No. I think there's a general population of males in the United States that can throw a ball 40 yards. Now, it might not be much more than 40, and it'll look uglier than about anything you're going to see. But, I do think, enough guys can throw it 40 yards.
I haven't found your stats, but I did find the MNU Sports, headshots. And junior year, Kent Swanson was actually Chin Swanson, because whatever you've got going on down there is a powerful look. Is that a shadow on your chin? What happened there?
Yeah, not my proudest moment. I had to grow something out. Yeah, I don't really want to go there. Fun fact: I know you love to Google things while we are. I am still the hand model for MNU football's webpage. So like they have this one shot. Yes, they have this one shot of a helmet that they use for about everything. They've used it for the last literally 10 years.
Yeah,
that's my hand. That's my hand.
Holding up the helmet.
Yes.
I used this photo at some point for the newspaper. Yes. No question.
Yeah. You've been using my hand for 10 years. Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's my hand. That's my helmet. So, fun fact. That's probably my biggest contribution to MNU football, if I'm being honest.
They used it on November 6th of this year. Like, this is the photo.
It's amazing how much run they've got out of that one photo.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's like nothing special. Like I don't, I've no offense to whoever took it. It doesn't. I mean, it's not a needle mover.
It's used 3 times in the carousel currently at MNUsports.com.
I'm telling you, like it is just their default.
Good. Yeah,
like it is literally the default. Like if they don't have a photo to use, that's what populates.
Get me Ken's hand.
MNU announces their recruiting class for 2015, and now it's Pioneers win at Valley in overtime. I mean, it's the same thing.
We have covered. I'm so glad that we've spent the first 15 minutes of this conversation the way that we have. Do you want to talk about the Chiefs at all, or do you want to go?
I mean, we can do it, I guess. I mean, this is how most of our conversations start. So I mean, whatever.
I think most of our best segments, there's sort of a barrier to entry that if you can't withstand 15 minutes of absolute brain dead nonsense, you don't deserve 15 minutes of good Chiefs analysis. That's the rule we've built here.
I guess my question is, where are they getting the good Chiefs analysis?
From you.
Okay. Well, yeah. We'll give it the college try, buddy.
I mean, we got it from Craig last night, so.
Yeah, but Craig's good at this.
And he's a better dad, it sounds like. So, tell me how you feel about the Chiefs' defense, which we have talked about being for real. We have talked about their growth. We have talked about how it's gotten better. We have luxuriated in these last several weeks. Tell me how it makes you feel that they're going to go on the road Thursday night, Justin Herbert, and it seems all but certain that they're going to have to do it without Chris Jones, L'Jarius Sneed, and Willie Gay Jr., with the latter two being totally ruled out. Chris Jones seems very unlikely to be cleared before game time.
Yeah, with a healthy Rashawn Slater, I'm terrified of the outlook of this defense. Yeah, I know they've done a lot of good things recently, but like that's just a big amount of talent to potentially miss with L'Jarius Sneed. Willie Gay, who's been a catalyst for the defense because of the athleticism he provides at the second level of that defense, especially with an Austin Eckler, and obviously Chris Jones. Like, I mean, that's 3 levels of the defense really that they're losing out on. In 2 very athletic players, 3 very athletic players. I think the Rashawn Slater thing kind of throws something in the wrench though, because that's a massive loss for the Chargers, and the Chiefs are able to generate edge pressure, and part of their resurgence has been Frank Clark and Melvin Ingram playing at really, really high levels, which is, what Frank Clark was paid to do and the reason that they acquired Ingram. Mm-hmm. So, things are finally working in that regard, and they're healthy and all that. But, yeah, that's a lot of dudes to lose right before the biggest game of the year. It's going to be interesting to see if, both teams lost equally. An equal amount. It's we've been having a conversation about is there some level of equity, equality here in what these two teams have lost, and I don't know the answer entirely. Chris Jones seems to tip the scale pretty heavily in favor of the Chiefs, but they also should be able to generate pressure against some abysmal Chargers tackles.
Yeah. You mentioned Eckler, and that was the first thing that I thought of whenever I saw the Willie Gay news, because I don't know that it's all about Willie Gay, but thinking about just that particular part of the defense where little stuff out into the flat was good for 12 yards every time, it felt like that Eagles game was not necessarily a game in terrible jeopardy for the Chiefs, it didn't feel like, but it also felt like they could just slice through the defense at will, usually 3-yard passes at a time that ended up going for 15 down the sideline or whatever. What
What's your concern level about that particular element? Because I'm most interested, I guess, in how much of that you think has been Willie Gay in terms of slowing that down, and how much of it could continue without him on the field in terms of maybe the Chiefs figuring something out on some other level.
Yeah, I mean, I think Willie Gay's definitely made some plays out on the edge and maybe less of a willingness for some of those, edge plays to be tested when he's been on the field. But I think it's been kind of an accumulative effort. Like the cornerback tackling's been a lot better out there too. But I mean, there were a lot of easy throws that, I'm not gonna, harp on Nick Bolton too much. He's good for what he is, but asking him to try to chase linebackers or chase running backs to the edge, like a lot of the tackles that he was racking up early in the year were facing the wrong end zone. He was being dragged down for an extra yard or two, or the momentum was taking him the wrong way. And that's been the case a lot of times with some of those edge plays with guys not named Willie Gay. So there's that to think about. But I don't know. It's going to be a cumulative effort. I think it has been too. I don't want to just completely just isolate it to one thing, because think about the quality of the tackling from the back seven in the last 8 weeks or 6, 7, 8 weeks. That's been a big factor here too with everything. Even those plays on the edge.
And then with the secondary, so Rashad Fenton played half the snaps last week coming back from his injury, and I think Spags mentioned that that was a factor in him not playing as much as he was pre-injury, which makes sense. But then that was also a lot more of Tyrann Mathieu moving around, spending more time in the slot last week, and so without Snead, that was then I think it was 90% of the snaps for Dan Sorensen. It was a lot of snaps. Whenever you look at what the secondary now shuffles around to do if they have a fully healthy Fenton, are things a little bit more normalized? Should we prepare for a lot more Dan Sorensen because Matthew's doing different things? What are you expecting to see with what the Chargers are able to do offensively against this unit, still, again, obviously banged up for a variety of reasons?
I don't, and one guy I didn't hear you mention, and I know Dan Sorensen's the hot button issue here, but I don't think Charvarius Ward played the last time these two teams matched up, and the Chargers had a field day just throwing outside the numbers up to Mike Williams, and just letting him go and get the football against Mike Hughes, who had his worst game as a Chief. So there's having Fenton in the mix and having Charvarius Ward being able to challenge the size of a guy like Mike Williams. Those are two big factors for sure in the back seven there, and part of why this defense has been a lot better is those two guys are playing really, really good football. Dan Sorensen is playing better. I mean, he is. I mean, good on him for, some of his recent performances. He has not been the same, guy that we saw struggling mightily and drawing the ire of Chiefs fans, and deservedly so. So that back seven is capable of handling the loss of L'Jarius Sneed. It would be nice to have him. It would be nice to have everyone, because this is this game is the difference potentially between the Chiefs being a wild card and being the 1 seed.
Yeah.
If the Chargers win out, they box the Chiefs out of winning the division.
Yep.
So this game is massive.
Yeah. One thing that we talked about last week, or 2 weeks ago, I can't honestly, last week, we talking about the offense and what we learned from I think the last couple of games, but particularly out of the bye. You said, what we learned is that a bye week didn't cure the Chiefs' offense. And that was obviously true. But then we get another one of these 40-plus point performances against the Raiders for the second time this year. Does that move the needle for you, or is there something particularly about the Raiders? And we've talked about the schematic things that they do a little bit differently, and Patrick Mahomes has kind of downplayed that element of it. We can talk about the matchups or the personnel that the Raiders have. Or is it just the Chiefs not dropping as many passes? What do you point to there, and does that do anything for you in terms of what the Chiefs' offense will look like Thursday, then next week, and then theoretically, hopefully, for the Chiefs' sake, late in the January or maybe even February?
I mean, it was nice that
Right.
they did what they did,
Right.
and I mean, but this team has put it on the Raiders twice here, and I do think there's some good things to point to, like you said, not dropping the football. That, the things that you can kind of control a little bit more, just, on the field, player execution was better. I thought Mahomes looked more comfortable, believe it or not, even though he was pressured a lot more. He looked more confident back there than I've seen in a while. his ability to create. He was doing a lot of really fun stuff, creatively. I thought, with his arm angles, escaping from the pocket, making some plays and challenging down the field. Like, some of those things are positive indicators. But at the same time, it doesn't mean anything for me personally unless they go out and do it this game.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, it's been the Raiders twice. They've played them similarly. The Raiders have, the Chiefs have the number of the Raiders, but the Raiders games have been the only two times that we've really seen this offense succeed at a high clip in a long time. And so, I think Andy's about to unload on the Chargers. I really do. I think the call sheet is going to be, I think it's going to be the best we've seen all year. And I think they're going to need it to, because I think the Chiefs are going to have to score a lot of points to win this game, especially with the absences that they're going to have on defense.
What's your best theory on why the Raiders games have been different?
I think it's how they played them. I mean, they haven't done the same things defensively with the same kind of too high structure stuff. Like, Gus Bradley likes to base out of a lot of cover three, and so I think there's a lot of truth to just how the Raiders have decided to play them. Teams have had success kind of sitting high, pre-snap in the too high shell, forcing long drives, mixing things up with their rotations in the middle of the field. Those have been the things that have really forced the Chiefs to create long, sustained drives, and the Chiefs have been able to generate explosive plays when they played the Raiders the last two games at a higher clip. So I think that's it. And you know what? The Chargers do some really, really good stuff here. This is a very good test for them, and I think a lot of teams have watched how the Chargers and the Broncos have tried to play the Chiefs historically the last couple of years, and how Brandon Staley has tried to play coverage historically as part of a strategy, which, actually there's some carryover with Fangio too. So
yeah,
Yeah.
Walk me through some of that with what the Chargers do that you think is something that people should be keeping an eye out for tomorrow, because especially with these divisional games, you do get two looks at these teams. Obviously, the Raiders games were 3 weeks, 2 games apart, but this one, I don't know how much you think will change from week 3 to now, but what do you think that's gonna look like whenever you talk about what Staley wants to do?
Yeah, they're gonna sit in too high. Pre-snap about every play. They're going to invite the run. Like, they're willing to allow some of they're going to present light boxes to the Chiefs. They're going to add late to the box because those safeties are going to rotate a lot too. So it's not just going to sit in a static 2 or anything like a static cover 2. They're going to rotate into a cover 1, like a robber kind of look where that safety is going to drop down. But you're not always going to know which safety. You're not going to know which safety is in run support at all times. There's late additions to the box that even though the light box is presented, it's going to look very appetizing to run the football. There's going to be numbers added into it very quickly with how their safeties play. So, that's some of the stuff that the Chiefs have, had some struggles with. And teams have mimicked that a little bit, not to the same clip and not to the same ability the Chargers are, because the Chargers are good at it. This is something that they kind of base out. And Vic Fangio in the Broncos have done some of that stuff too.
I won't begrudge you if you don't feel like you have a good answer for this, because I would not know the answer to this, but it's why I get to ask the question instead of answering it. But have you seen any commonalities in terms of whenever you do see safeties rotating and a little bit more of that motion? Does that do anything to Patrick Mahomes one way or the other that you've taken note of, or has he pretty much been able to handle that aspect of it?
Like just the late rotation?
Yeah. Has that posed any extra challenges? Or have you seen him look uncomfortable because of that?
There's times where he'll get got from time to time. It's not like I don't think what the Chargers do is something that just completely wipes the Chiefs offense off the face of the earth.
Right.
We talk about these things in this kind of fashion. All it does is it contributes. Mm-hmm. It makes him hold the ball a second longer. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't get exactly what he thought he was getting with the safety rotation, or if he has to hold the ball on a second, by the way, the Chargers have a really good pass rush. Mm-hmm. So it's like there's little, and honestly, the Chiefs had a good game plan against the Chargers last time. It was a lot of self-inflicted wounds. Yeah. So it's a combination, it's a culmination of everything. Hopefully you can, catch them a few times. Hopefully you can force them to drive long enough, to turn them over, which they did a lot of, and the Chargers were very intentional about turning the ball over. And getting hands on the football, and they did a great job of it the last time. So, it's a lot of little things. Like it always is the case. It's not like this team was shut out the last time these two played. It's hard to pull yourself out of it, but that's the truth. It's doing enough to win a game.
Yeah.
It's funny, mentioning the idea that, hey, nothing is as extreme as it seems in terms of like this is what it all comes back down to, and it's one of the things that talking about all the too high safety looks and everything that has gotten a little bit old, I think, for me, maybe even more after the Raiders game, because if they don't turn the ball over against the Chargers, no big Chiefs-based narrative starts there, other than just that they were able to bounce back from losing the Ravens game, which they also wouldn't have lost if there wasn't a crushing late turnover. But we talked about that for weeks, and then we talked about the too high safety looks for weeks, and now we're at this point where it's been a little bit of both for a while, and I kind of think that people are always looking for a little bit of a narrative to make things a little easier to understand, or to give the team some sort of, give us talking about the team some sort of boogeyman to push up against and say, well, if they just fix this one thing, they'll be fine again. But I don't know. I mean, it seems like that's almost never really true, that there's just this one thing, and I don't even know at this point what we should be spending more of our time talking about in the larger picture of the Chiefs' offense.
Well, I think one of the things that sucks is like it's the same problems that continue to ail this team, though.
Right.
And that's the truth about it. And it's not that, this team can't move the ball at all against, too high structures and late rotation and all that stuff. That's the thing that's given them the most issues. That's the thing that slowed this offense down enough to limit the explosive plays. That's the thing that has made this team drive long and force long drives, which has led to a lot of self-inflicted wounds. Largely, guys not named Patrick Mahomes, because he's having to drive down the field 10, 12 plays instead of these quick, explosive, drives. So it's the same things. It's the same problems, and when those are fixed, this team's a lot better. But it really, some of the things Andy does say about it comes down to execution. There's some truth to it.
Yeah.
Would I like to see them be pushing down the field more, trying to generate more explosive plays? Yes. But at the same time, if they do what they're asked to do at a clip, at a higher clip with more consistency, then the results are going to be a lot better too, and they have been. Like last week, that's not the best example, but you get what I'm saying. Just don't turn the football over the same alarming clip you were in the red zone, and good things will happen.
I tweeted kind of tongue-in-cheek. I think this was early in the Raiders game, or maybe it was against the Broncos. I don't even remember. But kind of tongue-in-cheek and also kind of serious, that the narrative of Patrick Mahomes won't settle down and take the easy stuff is about to turn into, why won't Patrick Mahomes take the deep shots anymore? And, I mean, you mentioned in the Raiders game him looking more comfortable despite still being under pressure. He looked comfortable in the way that he was manipulating the pocket and getting away from the pressure and keeping his eyes downfield and taking some of those deep looks. Is that going to be that would be the thing for me where this entire season I would be able to look back on in the future a lot more fondly if it ends with him doing more vintage, I guess. I don't know if he's been in the league long enough for it to truly be vintage or not. Andy Reid called it vintage after the Packers game on that last play, I guess. So to have some of those vintage Patrick Mahomes moments, I'm not sure. I'll workship that one. In addition, Mahomes. Yeah, I think we can do Mahomes. Having some of those Mahomes in addition to, learning to be a little bit more patient in terms of some of these everlasting drives that you just have to not have mistakes happen during, which again, as you mentioned, usually it hasn't been his mistakes that have derailed those. But do you think there's something to be said for kind of I don't know, another weapon in Patrick Mahomes' tool belt, or is this are we gonna look back at this and go, man, that was rough for whatever reason, and it didn't produce much in terms of the fun things you take into future years?
Yeah, it's tough to parse all that, because I think he did a good job taking stuff that was there last year while still maintaining the explosive ability that he has. I think he towed that line a lot better last year. I think teams have been more hell-bent on taking the explosives away, just forced him to have to do that more than he wants to. I think that's led to some, I don't want to say tension, not in a negative way. It's just it's a battle to try to do that and put a lot of trust in guys that haven't proven to, there's not a ton of reason to trust McCole Hardman or Byron Pringle or Demarcus Robinson at the same kind of clip. And so if you're having, if you're having to really feed those guys more than you want, because you're not, the teams are doing a really good job of taking Hill and Kelsey away, and they're making you drive down the field and all that stuff. Like, that can create some problems too there. So, like, I think he's just kind of, he's had to accept a new normal for a while, and I think he's kind of accepted it, and now he's maybe coming out of, the rules of the game and how he's got to play and how this team has to win have kind of been established because teams aren't going to go away from what they've been doing. I think he's got to find the freedom within that. I think he's starting to.
Yeah. You said earlier you think that the Chiefs will have to score a lot of points to win this game. If you have a final score or whatever, that's fine. I don't really care about your final score, but I am curious what you think this game is going to look like, and then we'll get you out of here.
I think there's going to be points scored, a lot of points scored.
Points will be scored.
And I know, what a great answer. I think I could see this game being in the 30s, both sides.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of I think the Chiefs can get there. They need to. They have to. I mean, I really do think this game's going to be a fun one and an up and down game, especially with some of the losses on both sides of the football. And I think the Chiefs are pulling it out. I think they're pulling it out tomorrow.
You didn't sound very confident, but you said the confident thing, which really created some cognitive dissonance for me. But I'm gonna take it.
I'll be more energetic the next time I predict a game score. I feel good about it. I do. I still feel good. I just like this team's dug themselves out of this hole, and I can't see them like being at the place that they need to be, the place that they've worked so hard for them to get, and just laying an egg. So I don't really know. I don't care who on the defensive side of the football is missing. I think they're going to pull this one out, and I think this is going to be the best offense performance we've seen in a while. Like, I'm predicting in the 30s. This will be more impressive than anything that they've done to the Raiders, easily.
That right there is a confident Kent Swanson.
Is that better?
And one of the two best dads of the year. Does Matt have kids?
Yeah, he's got two.
Okay,
and he's actually kind of out ahead of us because he's got two older kids. So like he's got a 5 and a 2-year-old now. So like his second is a lot older than ours. He's been through all this early child stuff.
One of the two best dads of the KC Laboratory podcast. One of the two best baby daddies of the KC Lab podcast.
There you go.
Kent Swanson. Follow him on Twitter at Kent_Swanson. And you can check out the Substack, kcsn.substack.com, for all the work that whole crew does. And if you want everything else, all the podcasts, all the YouTube stuff, go to kcsportsnetwork.com and get yourself a T-shirt. Because are there hats coming, Kent?
I'm wearing one right now, but they're not going to be for sale. Sorry.
Well, you can get a T-shirt at kcsportsnetwork.com. Thank you, Kent.
Anytime, buddy.
Take the show with you wherever you go. Listen live on the Sports
my own family by a good stretch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that happens.
With Joshua Brisco.
It's also interesting.
I live at home.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Thanks again for wasting your time with us, Kent Swanson of KC Sports Network. He's not listening now, I'm sure, but you can follow him on Twitter at Kent_Swanson. We had him and Craig on this week, so go support KCSN. A couple of things from the Twitch during that. So yours 5747 on Twitch says it was Lebo who had me losing a football throwing competition, which makes me think that Lebo doesn't even believe what he said. I can't imagine that someone would do this on the radio, but I'm afraid that Lebo might have said something for a joke instead of for an actual prediction. But I can't believe anyone would do that.
Nobody would ever do that.
But
that's irresponsible, and you can go to jail for stuff like that.
You can go to jail for that, and you should go to jail for that whenever you make jokes like that on the radio, because people hear it and believe things, and I think that's irresponsible.
Jokes hurt.
I gotta go see it. Kent saying that he thinks I could throw a football 40 yards makes me think that I definitely could.
I'm pretty confident he could, yeah. I can't throw a football. It's never been a skill of mine.
Really?
Yep, can't throw a football. Not good at it. Never been a skill of mine.
Stand up back there and pretend you're throwing a football for me. I want to see your throwing motion. I want to see a throwing motion.
It's just like a normal throwing
I'm
motion.
guessing you got like a hitch in it or something.
I want to see.
Why can't I see a throwing motion?
I honestly, I think it was Bill Barnwell I heard talking about this, about just like overall grip strength and how like everybody is always like, oh, you want quarterback with a big hand because those are the quarterbacks who can throw farther.
Right.
It has literally nothing to do with that. You want quarterbacks with a strong grip. A strong grip is like what allows you to get velocity.
And you just walk around your house and you just drop the cup you're holding.
And I honestly think that's probably like the tighter you can squeeze a football, the harder you can throw it. Like you look at like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes obviously have some of the strongest arms in the NFL.
Right.
They also tested with some of the highest grip strength, right, when they were in the combine. That's really what it comes down to. I don't got that grip strength. I can't get a tight spiral because of it, because that's also how you get a tight spiral. It's your grip.
Well, we can get you. I think you need to take Dick Justice the Wiener Dog in here and just try to. I want to see your full throwing motion.
Those like devices.
We can buy those.
Device?
Yes.
I'll just sit here during the show.
I think we should do that.
Squeezing, whatever those things are called.
I think we should work on
my grip strength.
I think we should work on our grip strength during the show, because if that's the thing, then you and I might all of a sudden, whenever we finally have this punt, pass, and kick competition,
I shock the world.
We're gonna ruin everybody else here because we've just been working out our grip.
Yeah, I've never had, because it was also the same in baseball. Like I was never like I did not bring the heat. Like I have never been able to.
You've got weak little hands.
I guess. Like I'm very accurate with my throws. Like
okay.
I
when you say you can't throw a football,
I mean, like I can throw a football. It's just like I cannot throw a football. I would say when I throw a football, it travels much, like it does not go nearly as far as the average person like throws a football.
But you think you're hitting your target though?
Yeah, I mean, like if you're 10 yards away running a route, I'll hit you square in the chest every time.
Okay, all right.
You asked me to start throwing like a 25-yard pass, and I'm getting nervous.
JT on Twitch said, I'm envisioning Josh and Corey in a cage match. Josh is, of course, dressed like a pirate. I would love that, and I would dress as a pirate if that's what it took. I have the costume. I've worn it to the Renaissance Festival. I will fight Corey as a pirate. Easy. Not even worried about it. Bizarro99 said they're totally using Mahomes. It looks better written out than us trying to say it. It's a little bit of a tough audio sound, but you're Patrick Mahomes. That's what his NFT line should be called. And then on YouTube, a commenter with the name Yes No asked, "Where are my almost entirely sports heads at?" And have we come up with a better nickname for the listeners of this show?
Crazy people.
I think it's got to be catchier than that. You know. I feel like we did at one point.
I don't remember if we did or not.
I can't either. But I think we did at one point.
Maniacs?
Say again?
Maniacs?
I'm going to really spell this literally in a way that I think will hopefully keep us FCC compliant. But how do we feel about AES holes?
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good, right?
Bizarro says almost entirely fans.
Also pretty
It's not
good.
bad. Almost
Also pretty
entirely
good.
fans of the show is pretty good.
Maybe we go, I can say this one faster. AES hats. Not
Yeah.
terrible. You know, for me, you guys listening right now, I'm kind of like Urban Meyer, you know? You're just listener, you know? Dip bleep. Bleep head. You know, it's my cool,
If we catch
charming
you out
style.
in, if we catch you out in public, we'll kick you.
And I'll find you and I will kick you at a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10. Not as hard as I can, but not a love tap. Just pop. Just
You're
a little,
gonna feel
boom.
it.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to go to the hospital.
No,
you're
no,
not in
no.
pain, but you're gonna be like, what?
It's going to be unpleasant,
Yeah.
but you're not going to go to the hospital, like Rudy said. Let's fire off our closing Chiefs-Chargers shots here. I'm going to be doing the pregame show tomorrow from 6 to 7 on this very station, and then we'll be live immediately after the game as well with the postgame show. By the way, also, we've got all the bowl games this year here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. You ask me one, we probably have it, including K-State's bowl game, Mizzou's bowl game. I didn't see KU's bowl game on the schedule. I would think we would have that.
That's one weirdly enough we don't get that one.
That doesn't seem right. We're the home of Jayhawks athletics, so I think
Not counting in bowl games though.
Okay, I mean, I'll tell you what. If that was true, we'd have no way of knowing one way or the other. But we've got all the bowl games that matter here on
Kentucky,
810
Iowa, the only bowl game that matters.
We have Kentucky, Iowa.
We do. Well, ESPN Kansas City does.
Between Sports Radio 810 and ESPN
the
Kansas City.
Disrespect getting put on ESPN Kansas City.
Also, little Saturday NFL action this weekend. That's exciting.
There's a doubleheader on Saturday and then a triple header on Sunday.
I'm excited about all this
That's a
football.
5-header.
That's what's the word for that? I don't mean a quadruple. I know sextuple.
Header.
I was going to Google group of 5, but that was going to give me the football conference. That's not a quintet.
Ah, yes.
But so we have a quintuple header.
A quin header.
I think it's a quintuple header.
Quin header shorter.
I wish this show was shorter by about 3 minutes. So here's where I'm at, and we'll obviously have more final thoughts on all of this tomorrow during the pregame show. And by the time the pregame show arrives, I'm gonna just hope that nobody else gets tacked on to the COVID list. But I'm worried about Austin Eckler. I'm worried about what the Chargers offense is gonna be able to do to a defense without Chris Jones, without Willie Gay, without L'Jarius Sneed. I'm also kind of excited to see if the combination of Frank Clark and Melvin Ingram and even a little Alex Okafor can make Rashawn Slater, the Rashawn Slater less Chargers offensive line with him being out because of COVID and not being out there at left tackle. I'm wondering if they can punish the Chargers for that unfortunate tweak for them. I said this on Twitter earlier. I would feel better about the Chiefs' chances with both teams being at full health than I do right now. I think everything altogether leans in favor of LA. Maybe that changes a little bit if some more of their questionable guys end up not being able to go, but I'm ever so slightly leaning Chiefs right now, but with all the confidence that you just heard in my voice. Thanks everybody who joined us this week. Be back for pre and post game tomorrow night. Until then, bye Mom.
You are listening to Almost Entirely Sports with Joshua Brisco on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Every day you pull into your garage and you see the same grungy concrete floor, probably with some staining and most likely some cracking. It's ugly.